We have the following board members with us remotely. We have Commissioner Washington. Good morning.
Good morning.
And we are joined in person by Vice Chair Bailey.
Good morning.
And I'm Chair Shapiro. Please note that the deadline for all participant pre-registration for all submission of materials and exhibits was 12 noon on the Tuesday before this planning board meeting. Registered speakers may join the meeting with a link provided in the email provided by the planning board office or listen by phone by utilizing the call-in number that you've received. And of course, anyone can tune in to watch our proceeding via live stream. If you wish to speak or become a person of record, you have the information before you on the screen. In addition to our commissioners, we are joined by our associate counsel, Laura Tallarico. Good morning.
Morning.
We have Joe Parsons, our senior technical hearing writer. Good morning, Mr. Parsons. And Sherry Connor, our acting development review division chief, is here as well. And we have Mr. Flanagan. I'm sorry, we have Miss Jessica Jones, who's our planning board administrator, with us right here up on the podium of the stand as well, the dais. And then we have Mr. Flanagan, Mr. Connor, who goes with technology. There's a lot of other folks here who have helped make this possible. I want to thank all of you for all the work that you have done to bring us to this point. So we're going to move the order of, I think we were going to switch the order of cases. Jessica?
We're going to take the last item on the agenda first.
So is that item 7?
Last item on the agenda.
Blue line corridor?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're actually going to take item 7. We're going to go in the order of cases except for we're going to do item 7 first. So we'll do item 2, then item 7, then we'll go through the rest of the agenda. So for item 2, I would look for a motion to approve the draft minutes from our February 6, 2025 planning board meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion by Vice Chair Bailey, a second by Commissioner Washington. With no discussion, I'll call the roll. Vice Chair Bailey.
Aye.
Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 3-0. Now we will go to item 7 on our agenda. Bear with me one sec. Seven. We've got a time crunch.
Oh.
Okay, so we're moving to item 7 on our agenda. This is a Community Planning Division, Central Avenue, Blue Silver Line Sector Plan and Sectional map amendment. We have Mr. Skibitsky who's going to be giving a staff presentation. Action is needed for this item, or staff is requesting us to take action, but I'll turn it to staff to take charge.
All right, thank you, and good morning, Chair Shapiro and members of the board. Again, for the record, I'm Bill Skibitsky.
Mr. Skibitsky, hold on one sec. I just want to make sure that people can hear him. Yeah, it's working. Commissioner Washington, you can hear Mr. Skibitsky, okay?
I can.
You can. And folks in the audience, can you hear me okay? We're just sort of testing out our processes. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, great. Please continue.
Yes, good morning, Chair Shapiro, members of the board. Again, I'm Bill Skibitsky, Planner 3 with the Community Planning Division, project manager for the Central Avenue, Blue Silver Line, Sector Plan and Sectional Map Amendment. I will discuss the critical need for a 6-month extension to the Central Avenue Blue Silver Line Sector Plan and SMA. This request stems from feedback from our recent key stakeholder engagements, which highlighted the significant need for increased density in strategic areas of the plan. The insights gathered necessitate revisions to ensure that the sector plan and SMA accurately reflect these new density proposals. These revisions will encompass updates to the plan's text and maps, its organizational structure, and urban design visualizations to better align with the enhanced density proposals that have emerged. The current timeline, however, does not allow for the thorough revisions needed, nor does it provide adequate opportunity for meaningful engagement with newly elected officials. To move forward, we are officially requesting the Planning Board to approve and transmit the extension request letters to the District Council. This additional time is essential for us to deliver a plan that is not only comprehensive and forward-thinking, but also inclusive of the community and political insights that will drive its success. If the 6-month extension is approved, The updated project timeline will have a new permission to print date deadline of September 25th, 2025. Thank you for considering this essential adjustment to our timeline. The project team will take any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Skibitsky. Colleagues, any questions for staff on this item?
No question.
No questions, then I would look for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve and transmit the extension letters to District Council for the Central Avenue Blue Silver Line Sector Plan and Sectional Map Amendment.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Washington. We got a sniffly motion by Commissioner Washington, if I may say.
With my apologies, and everybody be grateful I'm not there in person.
Thank you. And thank you for toughing it out. We appreciate it. We got a motion by Commissioner Washington, second by Vice Chair Bailey. With no discussion, I will call the roll. Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
But aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 3-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're now moved to item 3 on our agenda. We have legislative updates and approvals. We've got 4 items, I believe. And who is presenting those? We have Ms. Borden. There we go. You're online. Okay, there you are. Ms. Borden, if you could introduce yourself for the record, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Deborah Borden. I'm the General Counsel for the Commission. I have 4 bills to discuss with you this morning. And if I could get the ability to share my screen, I could put them up on the screen as I talk about them.
Ms. Borden, let me interrupt 1 sec for just the scheduling things. We have an executive session listed. I'm gonna have us take the executive session at the very end of the meeting. Okay, so we'll run through the entire public session. We'll go to the executive session. We will need to come back to close the regular meeting after executive session, but we won't have any content really to speak of. Okay, Ms. Borden, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, I still don't have the ability to share. So, I just got it. Sorry. So I will, hold on here. I will share these lovely bills with you. And I will make it bigger so we can actually see it. Okay, so the first bill is HB 1228. This bill actually only applies in Montgomery County, but just for your situational awareness. The Montgomery County Board did vote to support this last week. And what this bill does is it requires the Department of Commerce to conduct a study of Montgomery County's ag reserve with the emphasis on agritourism and sort of the agriculture economy, and trying to find ways to really maximize and protect that critical resource. So again, just situational. But it would be nice if you would actually vote in support so that we could say that the full commission supports this legislation. So I'll stop there.
Commissioners, questions for Ms. Borden on this item? No questions. I would look for a motion.
Motion to support.
I second.
Yeah.
We got a motion by Vice Chair Bailey, second by Commissioner Washington to support. If there's no discussion, I will call the roll. Ms. Bailey?
But aye.
Ms. Washington?
I vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 3-0. Okay, Ms. Borden.
Thank you. Our next bill, I will make that bigger as well, is HB 1163. This is a task force bill that is designed to look at fencing for bodies of water and playgrounds. The point of this bill is that we have been hearing a lot of stories, sometimes tragic stories, about people with developmental disabilities wandering away from their caregivers, wandering away from their homes, and getting into difficulty in ponds or swimming pools or other bodies of water, whether natural or man-made, and either having fatal results or being significantly injured. And so this bill is designed to focus a task force to study whether fencing or other means can be employed to help diminish the risks of these activities or these events happening. So we have put together a support with amendments. Our amendments deal with the fact that this is focused also on playgrounds, and we think that our parks departments should be invited to participate in the task force. So both of the parks departments requested that this language be added into the bill, and so we are putting that in our position for support. Happy to answer any questions you might have about this.
Commissioners, questions for Ms. Borden on this item? No questions. I'd look for a motion.
Motion to approve. To support.
We've got a motion to support. Is there a second?
I second and support with amendments, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We've got a motion to support with amendments seconded by Ms. Washington. Motion is by Vice Chair Bailey. With no discussion, I will call the roll. Ms. Bailey.
Aye.
Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 3-0.
Thank you. Our next bill is SB 290. Let me make that bigger so we can actually see it. This is a roadside tree bill. The bill itself requires applicants for a roadside tree removal permit to provide notice to generally adjacent and confronting property owners, as well as some others that are geographically close to the area. We have been in contact with the sponsor's staff, who've indicated to us that they are considering an amendment that would exclude WSSC as well as the counties from this bill, because we do a lot of projects. We already have within our process notice procedures that, would be basically duplicated by this. So what we are proposing is to do an informational item. We're not opposing the bill. We just would like the amendment language to be tweaked to include us as well as WSSC. So, and that would be a very small change to literally one word in the amended or in the proposed amendment. And so we have that down here on the informational sheet. Happy to answer any questions you might have about that.
Thank you. I do have one question. Why is this informational only with amendments rather than support with amendments?
Well, because once the amendment is done, it actually won't apply to us. Generally, we don't get into supporting or opposing something that's not directly affecting us.
Okay, that's helpful. I appreciate that. So this is informational only with amendments. You're not looking for action for us.
Correct.
Well,
correct.
okay.
Although, the feedback on why it's not a support with amendments is helpful too. We'll make sure we lead with that in the future.
Okay. Okay. Good. Right. So if there's no questions from my colleagues, we'll move on to the next item.
Okay. And the last item is the biggest one. This is the Housing for Jobs Act, which is a bill that has been presented by the governor's office and introduced, into the legislature, sort of under the governor's banner. This is a continuation of the governor's push for affordable housing in the state and throughout the state. This bill is a very big departure from anything that the state has done in the past. It is establishing sort of a data-centric view of looking at housing as a ratio of the number of jobs in an area. So it is a very technical bill. And so our housing experts in our planning departments, both planning departments, have put together some fairly extensive technical amendments or technical comments that we would like the legislature to consider. We are hoping that by supporting this bill with amendments, and they are extensive amendments, these are not small tweaks. These are things that we think will help clarify and help actually make the bill work better statewide. We're hoping that this will get us a seat at the table when they're hashing out how to make this bill actually work. So that's our strategy, and we're hoping that we can get your support for that view and these proposed amendments. Like I said, these amendments were put together by our housing experts. So to the extent you have any specific questions about them, I probably will have to defer to our planning department to answer those questions. So I'll stop there and see if there are any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Borden. Colleagues, any questions for Ms. Borden on this very important item?
Yeah, no questions, but just thank you to council, general counsel, as well as planning staff on the very thoughtful amendment recommendations. Very good job.
Well said. If there's no other questions, I'd look for a motion.
Move to support with amendments, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Washington and a second by Vice Chair Bailey. With no discussion, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 3-0.
Thank
Ms. Borden?
you.
Thank you very much for all the good work for you, Ms. Falcon Colbert, for the whole team.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate all your work.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, we will move on to item 3. We're skipping 3B for now. Let me ask, is there anything, am I out of sequence with Parks and Rec items? Is there anything that we needed to take up in executive session before we went into open session on Parks and Rec items? Sometimes that happens.
No.
No? Okay, all right. Okay, good. So then we will go to item 3C on our agenda. Is that right?
Correct.
Remember?
Good morning.
Is that correct? Yeah, that is correct. Okay. Item 3C, land purchase agreement, New Riverdale Road Trail Connector property. Mr. Sun, I believe, is presenting. Ms. Ewing is there. Ms. Ewing, I'm starting with you.
Yes, I'm here today. Glad to see you all in person in the auditorium. That's an exciting step for us.
Thank you.
Representing Director Tyler, and we'll jump right in with Mr. Sun with this land item.
Okay, thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Paul Sun, Land Acquisition Specialist, Department of Parks and Recreation. Good morning, Chair Shapiro, members of the Planning Board. We have here today a land purchase contract for acquisition of land to assist with the planned implementation of a trail connector for the New Carrollton Lanham area. Next slide, please. The subject property is located in Lanham at 6801 Zook Place. The property is 1.6 acres in size. Next slide, please. And currently undeveloped. Zook Place is a relatively short street on the east side of Auburn Avenue, approximately 1,200 feet north of Riverdale Road. Although the property is not contiguous with MNC PPC property, it is located within 500 feet of Wallow Croft Local Park to the northeast. Next slide, please. I'm sorry, hold on to this slide. During this last several years, our department's trails team has been looking at ways to provide connectivity from New Carrollton neighborhoods to New Beacon Heights Metro Station, or I guess it's Purple Line, excuse me. They envisioned a northeasterly route from Riverdale Road through our Wilder Croft Park, extending to Carroll Middle School. Next slide, please. Last summer, 6801 Zook Place was found to be available and was active on active market listing. The property fits directly into our preliminary design concept as it means providing connectivity southward from our Wilder Croft Park to Riverdale Road. There's existing concrete storm management aqueduct located along the southeast corner of the property, but the property is undeveloped and we're confident that the property would fit any facilities that would be needed. Next slide, please. So as a quick reminder, using our acquisition scoring system for Trails development, this property scored 70 points. Next slide. Here's an aerial map of the property showing Wildercroft Park to the northeast. Next slide. In July 24, we obtained independent appraisals on the property. The owners of the property agreed to sell the property at this price, $123,000. Next slide, please. Staff recommends purchase to the planning board approval of this purchase agreement. This concludes staff's presentation. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Sun. Commissioners, questions for Mr. Sun?
Not at this time.
No questions, then I would look for a motion.
Motion to approve staff recommendation approval of the purchase agreement.
Second.
Got a motion by Vice Chair Bailey, a second by Commissioner Washington with no discussion. I will call the roll. Vice Chair Bailey. Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 3-0. Thank you, Mr. Sun. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll now move to item 3D in our agenda. This is a renaming request for Nashwood Park. We have Ms. Wright. This is going to be giving the staff presentation. I think we have some folks who've signed up to speak as well. Start with Ms. Wright. Ms. Wright, you're on mute.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Good morning. I'm Tracy Wright. I'm the Resource Development Officer for the Department of Parks and Recreation, Prince George's County. And we come before you today for renaming for Nashwoods. The next slide, please. This proposed renaming is to rename Nashwoods Park to the Douglas J.J. Peters Park. This was submitted by the Bowie City Council. Next slide, please. So the location is in Bowie between Keswick Lane and Kinderbrook. Next slide. And I think this is a wrong presentation, an old one. We hadn't updated, so I apologize because we made some corrections. So I will have a representative from the city of Bowie as well as Todd Turner speaking. So what I wanted to just briefly explain on this slide is that this fits into this renaming from our current commission policy for renaming parklands under Section 5D, which explains that in response to an extraordinary request, a park may be named in honor of a particular individual provided, such as the individual has played a pivotal role in establishing the park. The park is one of national stature, which enhances positive public image, the economy and quality of life for residents. Next slide, please. So the consideration, we were looking at Nashwoods, as you saw the picture before, it is an undeveloped park. It doesn't currently have amenities aside from the network of natural surfaces and trails.
Excellent.
So this would be an opportunity for us, not only with renaming, but actually adding some amenities. We talked about like a wooden sign that would be present at the trailhead. We could offer maps, additional information, and give more of a historical perspective of how State Senator Peters played a pivotal role in the preservation of this development. Next slide. The naming recommendation. Internally, the commission, we looked at this and we made a recommendation that we feel that this is something that we wanted to bring to the planning board for review. Next slide, please. So now we'll have two special guests. One is Todd Turner, and then the next will be the city of Bowie.
Mr. Turner, good to see you always. And introduce yourself for the record, and the floor is yours. And make sure you're not on mute.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
There we Okay.
You can? Okay.
No, now, my bad.
Okay. Good,
Yes, sir.
good morning, Chair Shapiro, members of the Planning Board, Todd Turner, here in my individual capacity and not in my official capacity. I know there was a change on the presentation. And again, I want to thank you, obviously, for your continued service, and good to see all of you. I know it's been a while since I've interacted with the Planning Board in my previous capacities. Obviously, I'm here this evening, or this morning, excuse me, and as a former member of the Bowie City Council, a former member of the County Council, and a friend and someone who worked with the late Senator Peters for over 20 years in support of the Department of Park and Recreation's renaming of Nash Woods Park in his honor. Obviously, this initially got started through the city of Bowie. I know we have a representative, I believe, so I'll let them speak to that history. But obviously, I know, having known Doug and worked with him in different capacities, I think we all are aware of his impact, not only in Bowie and Prince George's County and the state of Maryland in his different roles as well. And we also know that he's a pretty humble guy as well during his almost 25 years of public service to the state and county and the city. And when he was the county council member for District 4, representing the Bowie area, he was instrumental in obviously preserving Nash Woods from development by the Nash family, who owns the property, which it's named after, and working obviously with the redevelopment of what was then the Maryland Science and Technology Center, now known as Melford Town Center. He was able to secure funding, purchase of the property, secure funding through the Planning Commission to purchase and preserve this 100 acres of open space, as was indicated by park staff. So I know the board recently adopted a new naming policy, so this might be one of the first ones before the board. So we appreciate both the Park and Recreation's consideration and your consideration as well. I had chaired a similar renaming work group when I was a member of the county council, and I know there's a lot of balancing of things that you need to do as part of that process. And I see that some of the guidelines that were recommended as part of that were adopted as part of your adoption of the renaming policy. So with that in mind, one of the things that we had suggested to park staff after we saw the presentation, in order to keep the balance between obviously honoring Senator Peters and the historical nature of the property being known as Nash Woods, we had made a couple of recommendations maybe that the board can consider with respect to the renaming if you are favorable to it. One could be the Senator Douglas J.J. Peters Memorial Park or Community Park at Nash Woods. I think that would be fitting both in honor of his role in preserving the property as well as the historic nature and what people know the property as of today. So lastly, I just want to simply thank obviously Department of Parks and Recreation for their assistance over the last year, in particular Director Tyler, Alan McNeil, who I know is no longer with the commission, as well as Ms. Wright for her efforts. In addition, I want to thank the city of Bowie staff who were involved, Joe Meinhardt, who's no longer with the city, and Ashley Diaz, who I think has taken over some of his responsibilities. So with that, Mr. Chair, I know you got a busy agenda today. I would just ask for your favorable consideration of the renaming of Nash Woods in honor of the late Senator Douglas J.J. Peters. And thank you, and can answer any questions. And we stand ready as the community, I think the city of Bowie, to assist with some of the amenities, and maybe there's some further efforts that we can support the park in that way as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Thank you for your leadership in all these ways through all these years, and your advocacy for this specific issue as well. One quick question. I just want to make sure. So you're what you are comfortable with and you think might be the right way to go is the Douglas J.J. Peters Community Park at Nash Woods?
Yes, I think that would be fitting, obviously, for the board to consider.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Turner? The questions will turn to Ms. Diaz with the city of Bowie.
Good morning, Chair Shapiro and members of the board. Thank you all for having me. I'm Ashley Diaz. I'm the Sustainability Manager from the City of Bowie. Today, I'd like to speak in favor of the name change of the Nash Woods to honor the late Senator Douglas J.J. Peters. The Bowie City Council wrote a letter in favor of this back in 2023, and I want to thank Mr. Turner for championing this through with us and helping me along the way. I reviewed comments that were submitted to the city and to Joe Minert previously from many of Mr. Peters' colleagues and Bowie residents, and it's clear that Senator Peters played a crucial role in protecting the Nash Woods as a public parkland. With over 2 decades of public service, including time on the Bowie City Council, the County Council, and as a Maryland State Senator, his leadership led to a collaborative effort between MNC-PPC, the City of Bowie, and the developers to secure the Nash Woods for conservation, ensuring the area would remain protected. The Nash Woods serves as a recreational space, wildlife habitat, and a lasting testament to Senator Peters' commitment to preserving green spaces for future generations. I just want to add up a quick personal note. I only interacted with him once. It was at our first ever Green Bowie Veterans Day 5K back in 2018. He was our guest of honor and he stood in the cold. It was in November and high-fived every single walker and runner in our 5K, and it was amazing. So I will end by saying he was an amazing man, and we would greatly appreciate the opportunity to honor him and his legacy through this naming. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind words for my former colleague as well. I can recognize that in him as you talk about him. Commissioners, any questions for Ms. Diaz?
Just one question, Mr. Chairman. And I know it was discussed that they're considering amenities as part of the park to coincide or complement the renaming. And I wonder if those amenities include a historical marker with respect to Senator Peters.
That's an interesting question. Staff, do you have a response for that?
I can chime in and Sonia can.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say we are kind of in the middle of a wayfinding plan that's going on. We're working on signage throughout the city. We're looking at this parcel of land as well. And so I think that could be suggested to the wayfinding group, definitely.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and was not only curious, but I also think it's relevant because it's a matter of whether or not we include Senator Douglas J.J. Peters as part of the park name. Because I know one of the alternatives included Senator Douglas J.J. Peters Memorial Park at Nash Woods. So I don't know if you and or Mr. Turner have a preference or thought about that.
I will simply say, so we offered a couple of alternatives to the park staff with respect for the board to consider. So we leave it to your device. Either Memorial or Community Park at Nash Woods, I think, would be sufficient. Obviously, it's interesting at the time that Nash Woods came into park and planning, he was a county official, but his last elected official was as a state senator. So.
Okay. Thank you. That's it for me, Mr. Chairman. I'll defer to you, my colleagues, on further comments.
Thank you.
No further comments.
No further comments on this item. We have no one else who signed up to speak on this. I do think, we could delegate this to staff around the specific name, but I'm also curious of where you all are landing right now. And whether it matters what you get that level of precision from us or not, Ms. Ewing, around the naming?
I think it's okay to delegate it to staff. I'll also ask Ms. Wright if she has any opinion on this.
Yes, we were open because when we came into it, either or. So what we'll do is if the board agrees, and I guess for the record, we would need to establish exactly what the renaming would be. I see that no one's opposed to, there were three options. And we're open to any of those. So, and really it's up to the board, the planning board.
So does anyone object to the Douglas J.J. Peters Community Park at Nash Woods?
I don't. I would just, you know, and again, it gets to the heart of the memorial marker. If included in signage can include, you know, Doug's public service roles, you know,
Yes.
whether at the county, his last role was obviously a senator. I just want to make sure that's somehow captured. It doesn't have to be in the name, but somehow captured.
Well, we intended to have like a biographical information that would be at the trailhead, so we can
Okay.
create that and have that, yes.
Excellent.
Okay.
So let's
Okay,
have that be
then I'm
part,
fine with your recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
let's have that be part of our motion, is that we understand that this includes signage that details the history of Mr. Peters' different public service roles and his involvement in the park.
Okay.
Okay, all right, without objection to any of that, I would look for a motion, commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the renaming of Nashwood Parks to the Douglas J.J. Peters Community Park at Nashwoods, with the understanding that Senator Peters' historical contributions to the county will somehow be demarked as part of the park grounds. How was that?
That sounds pretty good to me. Yeah, right. We got a motion by Commissioner Washington and a second by Vice Chair Bailey. If there's no discussion on that motion, I will call the roll. Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
But
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 3-0. Thank you all very much for your pushing on this. We're excited about this as well. Thanks, team, for all of your collaboration with the community as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair,
Thank you.
and members of the board. On
Thank you.
behalf of his family as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you all. All right, we're now moving on to item 3E on our agenda. This is the Formula 2040 plan. We have Ms. Hedgepeth that's going to be giving a presentation on this. This is an action item as well, and we will turn to staff.
All right, thank you for that. Our team is here to officially begin with the planning board initiation of an update to the 2013 Formula 2040 functional master plan for parks and recreation. We started to call this Inside Formula 2040 2.0. We have our entire project team here, including supervisor for the planning section, Ms. Tanya Hedgepeth, co-project leader, Don Herring, who serves as our planner for Southern Prince George's County, and then co-project leader, Marlene Jackson, who is going to give our presentation today. Passing it off to you, Molly.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Sonia. I want to also acknowledge my colleagues as well. Thank you so much for joining me. For the record, my name is Marlene Jackson, and I'll be delivering the presentation today. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties behind me, but at least you can hear my voice, right? Cool. Next slide. So I'm going to keep this brief and try to stick to this agenda, which is to introduce the project, to tell you where we are and how we got here, go over our goals, concepts, and guidelines, otherwise known as GCG, our public participation program, otherwise known as PPP. If I reference those, that's what I'm talking about. The schedule, do wrap up, next steps, and leave it open for some questions. Next slide. So this is just a background introduction. This is a countywide initiative. We are looking to cover 9 service areas, and this work is nothing new. We are continuing the efforts that we had done starting in 2008, which is actually around the time that I started the commission on the Montgomery County side, but thought I would acknowledge that. So it's really based on these 3 different feasibility studies having to do with the needs and the resources, the vision and framework, and the implementation that was seen in the 2010 and beyond documents. Next slide. The introduction, continuing with the introduction, I want to just also mention that, again, this is nothing new. This is work that we are updating. When we're talking about what updates we're really looking to do, we don't think that the vision has changed. We just want to make sure that the goals, we're still on track with the goals. The objectives and the strategies and the action items are still in alignment with the vision. Next slide, please. As far as our GCG is concerned, the main project goals, just emphasizing the most important things here: access, assessing and reevaluating the level of service and the impact to those 9 service areas that I mentioned countywide, strengthening and building a strong social network, and refining and updating plan performance metrics. This is very key. Plan performance metrics, goals and strategies. We're trying to have a stronger tie and encouraging staff, trying to make sure that we all are in lockstep with the updated vision and having understand how the performance metrics also align with our work program. Next slide. These goals are also consistent with our 8 values, and those 8 values are stemming from the original vision that was created by the original plan. Next slide. And just to kind of give you the what's most important, why does this matter? We're really focused on increasing accessibility and inclusivity countywide, making sure that people have access. And also the quality of life function, the level of service, and pairing that with our work program and trying to make sure that, again, it is a way that we can track it through our performance. And again, as such, we're calling this, these 2 items are our guiding principles as we're trying to move forward in our update of Formula 2040, otherwise known as 2040 2.0. Next slide. So I list these things here, and they're not unexpected. They're very common, but the most important thing about the PPP, next slide, is that we are trying to build a network, a communication network. So it's going to be, a mixing and matching of informal meetings as well as formal meetings, but then how we're being able to analyze and interpret that data is then going to be shared with our audience, and our audience are, it's the countywide initiative, so we're trying to cover as much ground as possible. Next slide. Consistent with other master planning efforts, this is our legislative schedule, and so we're starting with the initiation, and pretty soon we will be launching into our community efforts and both continue our conversation. Back in December, we have presented an assessment report, or progress report 2024. We are in the process right now reviewing that to finalize it and to publish it with our website. And then we will be launching our efforts for a kickoff meeting for community members. Next slide. So with that being said, I just want to kind of let you know what our next steps are. And we have initiated with you today. We will be initiating this package, will be sent off to the district council, and we hope to be presenting on March 11th. We have a website in place, and we need your help to get the word out, spread the word about the fact that we are looking to engage with stakeholders, agencies, agency representatives, civic associations, this master plan update. And with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Well done. Commissioners, any questions for staff on this initiation package?
No questions.
Okay. I know there's a lot of work that goes into this. I'm sorry, Commissioner Washington.
No, I just said no questions, but thanks, staff.
Yeah. I know there's a whole lot of work that gets us to this point. Looking forward to this robust process and presentation well done as well. So, Commissioners, what is your pleasure on this item?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the transmittal of the initiation package to the District Council for initiation of Formula 2040 Master Plan Update.
Got a motion by Commissioner Washington, a second by Vice Chair Bailey. With no discussion, I will call the roll. Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 3-0. And thanks again, team, for all the work.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will see you later today. And I also would just like to thank the planning department staff. I call them our cousins, who've helped us with what is a once in a decade planning effort, and the legal staff helping us get this through the legislative process. So we appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for the kind word. All right, we'll move on to our consent agenda items. Is there anyone from the public or any board member who wishes to discuss any of these items?
Mr. Chairman, after consideration of the records for items on the consent agenda 4A, 4B, 4D, and 4E, I move adoption of the staff findings and approval of these items on the consent agenda in accordance with the recommendation of staff.
And I second.
We got a motion by Vice Chair Bailey, a second by Commissioner Washington. With no discussion, I'll call the roll. Vice Chair Bailey?
But aye.
Commissioner Washington?
I vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 3-0. We'll now move on to our regular agenda items, and there are two because we've already taken one up. And then again, we'll conclude with our executive session. Well, we'll have the executive session at the end before we expose the meeting. So we'll move on to item 5 on our agenda. This is a preliminary plan of subdivision 4-24016 Fairview Manor. We have Mr. Antonetti, who is virtual. This is a continuance request. We have a staff presentation by Mr. Bartlett, and turn to you, Mr. Bartlett.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. For the record, I'm Jason Bartlett with the subdivision section. Item number 5 on the agenda is a preliminary plan of subdivision for Fairview Manor, case number 4-24016. The subject project proposes 2 lots for single-family detached development of an existing historic resource parcel containing the Fairview and Cemetery Historic Site. In a letter dated January 30, 2025, the applicant requested a continuance for this case to March 27, 2025, to allow the applicant additional time to meet with the Historic Preservation Commission. Staff recommend approval of the continuance, and if the continuance is granted, additional posting will not be required. The notices of public hearing signs for this application were posted on the subject site on January 21, 2025. This concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Bartlett. Commissioners, if there's no questions for staff, I'll turn to the applicant, Mr. Antonetti.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Board. For the record, Robert Antonetti with the law firm of Shipley & Horn. We're pleased to represent the applicant, Fairview Manor, LLC, in this case. We support the recommendation of staff. I will note that we did use the additional time to meet with the HBC this week, which resulted in a favorable outcome. And so we're very excited about that. We think it makes the case stronger. And we, upon approval of this, we would look forward to meeting with you on March 27th to participate in the full review of this case. So thank you for your favorable consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Antonetti. Commissioners, if there's no questions for the applicant, we have no one else who's signed up to speak on this. Oh, actually, we do. No, I'm sorry, that's for a different item. So no one else has signed up to speak on this. Commissioners, what's your pleasure on this motion, on the request for continuance?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the request to continue preliminary plan 4-24016 to planning board hearing date of March 27, 2025.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Washington, second by Vice Chair Bailey. With no discussion, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Washington?
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey?
But aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 3-0. Thank you, Mr. Antonetti. Thank you, Mr. Bartlett. Item 6 on our agenda. This is preliminary plan of subdivision 4-24015 Redeemers Church of Christ. We have Mr. Rivera, who's representing the applicant, I believe. We have Ms. Vatendust, who's going to be giving a staff presentation. We have other staff as needed. We have a few folks who signed up to speak if needed. This is an evidentiary hearing, so if there are folks who are speaking besides the couple that I mentioned, I'll swear them in at the appropriate time if needed. I don't think we have any opposition on this case. Let's start with staff. Ms. Vatendust, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. For the record, I'm Mahsa Vatendust with subdivision section. Item number 6 on the agenda is a preliminary plan of subdivision 4-24015 titled Redeemers Church of Christ. The subdivision proposes one parcel and one outlet for 71,697 square feet of institutional development. This application is supported by an approved certificate of adequacy ADQ-2024-022. Staff has received one exhibit from Senator Augustine prior to the Tuesday noon deadline in support of this project. No citizen has signed up to speak on this case, and the applicant has indicated that they agree with all the staff recommended conditions of approval. Based on the findings presented in the technical staff report, the staff recommend that the planning board approve this preliminary plan of subdivision 4-24015 and type 1 tree conservation plan TCP 1-030-2024, as well as the variation from section 24-121A3 and variance to section 25-122B1G, subject to the findings and conditions in the staff report. This concludes the staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Van Dust. Commissioners, any questions for staff on this item? Seeing none, we'll turn to the applicant, Mr. Rivera.
Good morning, everyone. Norman Rivera, for the record, representing the Redeemer's Church of Christ. Their actual church, existing church, is just to the upper left of this site, so it's literally around the corner, if you will. Pastor Kobe Sarpong is to my left on the screen, if that's to your left, dialing in from Ghana. So this does work long distances, so we appreciate that. Also, we have several folks signed up that are from the congregation, elders that are here in support. And since Ms. Van de Soot was so brief, I'll be brief as well, because she has covered the staff report very thoroughly. We've met all the findings for approval for the TCP1. There were two variations, one to have access to the arterial road because there's the only access for the site. So the staff recommended a variance approval for that, or variation, and then a variance for removal of several specimen trees, because as you see, the site is totally wooded, and the trees are exactly where parts of the church would have to be. So they respectfully granted the approval of that variance. We are in acceptance of the recommendations, approval, the findings, and the conditions. And if I could have the pastor just address the board briefly, they've been itching at the bid here for quite some time. They're eager to move on. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. Turn to Pastor Kobe. And Mr. Pastor, I need to swear you in real quick, okay? If you could raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that your testimony will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Yes.
Okay.
Amen.
I had to throw that in, Pastor.
I appreciate that. And thank you, Rivera. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair Shapiro, and members of the planning board. I'm so grateful for your good work that you've been doing. My name is Pastor Kobe, as you've rightly heard, and I'm the privileged chief servant of the Redeemer's Church of Christ. Over the years, Redeemer's Church of Christ has created a diverse audience, and we've been impacting the community. We've worked with the office of the county executive, who is currently the senator. We've also worked with state attorney, who is also running for county executive. We've worked with the office of Senator Augustine and the governor as well, Westmore. So over the years, the church has grown, and we are still growing, and current space is not able to accommodate us as we want to. So it's just to serve the community better. We will appreciate the planning board approving this for us to be able to move on. We are one of the churches that opened our facility for the COVID time, just to help the community. So we've been, over the years, working with the community, and we'll be very, very much happy and humbly ask you to approve this request for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. If there's no questions for the pastor, Mr. Rivera, anyone else you want to have speak?
I think it's safe to say that everybody else that signed up on our side is in support. I could have each one say they're in support, but they signed up as favorable. So I think in the interest of time and to save Ms. Washington's voice a little more, I'll just let them, sit in silent support because they're here.
Okay, I appreciate that, and thank you all for your patience with us too on our busy morning. We're glad you all are here, and we're able to participate just in case. So we have no one else who has signed up to speak on this. Mr. Rivera, you have the final word if there's anything else you want to add before we close the public hearing.
One, Senator Peters was a dear friend of mine, so I was glad to see movement to there. And I spoke to Mr. Turner, and he said they're also going to rename, I don't want to take his thunder, but I already started, a section of 450 in honor of Senator Peters to us, Doug. So he was a great friend, a great man, a great man of service. So that is one thing I'd like to add. And then I'm happy to see that the auditorium is getting in gear. Does that mean there's going to be in-person live hearings in some future point, I guess?
Yes. Yep. Very soon, actually. We won't break the news till we break the news, but relatively soon we'll be allowing folks to come in person.
That's great. That's great. And I don't have to drive to Upper Marlboro anymore.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. All right, if there's nothing else before us on this, I'll close the public hearing. And if there is no deliberation, commissioners, what is your pleasure on this item?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the findings of staff and approve preliminary plan 4-24015 TCP 1-030-2024, variation from section 24-121A3 and variance to section 25-122B1G, subject to the conditions as outlined in staff's report.
Got a motion by Commissioner Washington, seconded by Vice Chair Bailey with no discussion. I will call the roll. Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
But I
vote aye as well. The ayes have it 3-0. Pastor, thank you. The rest of the team, Mr. Rivera, Ms. Vatendus, thank you all very much on this item.
Thank you, Ms. Washington. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good day.
I'm very grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
So we have one final bit of business before us. We're going to go into executive session pursuant to the general provisions article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, Article 3-305, subsection B3. A closed session is proposed to discuss the possible acquisition of real property for a public purpose and purchase of easements in conjunction with the Historic Agricultural Reserve Preservation Program and matters related thereto, and for the purpose of protecting the commission's negotiating position. For those reasons, commissioners, I'd look for a motion to go into executive session.
motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Got a motion by Vice Chair Bailey, a second by Commissioner Washington. Under discussion, let me just say to the public, we have no further business before us. After this, we will be coming back into open session just to close the meeting, which will probably be in about 15 minutes would be my guess. So with that, I will call the roll. Vice Chair Bailey.
But I
Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 3-0. We'll see you all in executive session in a few minutes, and thanks to everybody else.